join our commentators for the Adelaide Grand Prix, James Hunt and Murray Walker.
Afternoon from Adelaide, and I refuse to say good afternoon because it is absolutely diabolical, as you can see for yourselves. 1989 was the year that we thought that we had the worst weather imaginable for a Grand Prix race, but sadly at the present moment it is looking as though 1991 is going to be a repeat. Earlier on this morning the rain was on and then it was off again. But at 1:15, a most gigantic rain cloud burst over us, and you can see now that it is still belting down in Adelaide. As far as I know, there has been no decision to delay the start, which is due in 5 minutes' time for this 81-lap race. An 81-lap race where all the pressures of the World Championship have been lifted. Ayrton Senna has won it. There is, however, a pressure on the Constructors' Championship, which is led by the McLaren team. 5 minutes to go. It's led by the McLaren team, 11 points ahead of Williams, and the McLaren cars, both of them, are on the front row of the grid. Ayrton Senna, after that sensational fastest ever lap of Adelaide, which you have just seen, 1 minute 14.041 seconds, a speed of 114.2 miles an hour. I doubt that we're going to see any like that this afternoon. Gerhard Berger is alongside Ayrton Senna, or just behind him. But the bad news for Berger is that he has had a stomach problem all night. He was severely hydrated and he's in second position. Then the two Williams cars of Nigel Mansell and Riccardo Patrese, followed by the Benettons of Piquet and Schumacher. The Ferraris of Alesi and Gianni Morbidelli substituting for Alain Prost, who has been fired by Ferrari. Then Stefano Modena and Pierluigi Martini. After them, JJ Leto, the Finnish driver, and Andrea De Cesaris in the Jordan. Emanuele Pirro and Maurizio Gugelmin. Michele Alboreto going extremely well in practice, 15th. Followed by Zanardi and Blundell with Moreno. Then Nicola Larini and Thierry Boutsen, who won in 89 in these wet weather conditions. Johnny Herbert in the Lotus, Eric Comas in the Ligier Lamborghini. Alex Caffey, and then Satoru Nakajima, who was fastest in those dreadful conditions in 1989, the fastest lap of the race. Last on the grid, Mika Häkkinen from Finland in the Lotus, and Karl Wendlinger, the Austrian, driving in his second Grand Prix for Leighton House. The eyes of 60 times pole winner Ayrton Senna they were. These are Gerhard Berger's. He is second on the grid. He's yet to win a Grand Prix for McLaren the way he would like to. He won in Japan. There is the 3-minute board. Nigel Mansell has just been into the pits to have a new windscreen fitted and to have more downforce put on the rear wing. More downforce to force the tyres harder onto the ground. This is the first race that the new asymmetrical Goodyear wet weather tyre will have been used for. The eyes of Riccardo Patrese, who is fourth on the grid in his Williams Renault. And you see that nose guard, that is to stop vapour going up on the inside of the colder visor surface and fogging up. Nelson Piquet, 3 times world champion, possibly about to drive his last Grand Prix. He's been released by Benetton, is the polite way to put it, and as far as we know, he has not got a 1992 drive yet. Next to Piquet, 6th on the grid, the astounding 22-year-old Michael Schumacher, who, like Piquet, is driving a Benetton Ford. And then it is Jean Alesi, the French Sicilian, not a happy man now that Alain Prost has left the team, and he, Alesi, is the inexperienced team leader for Ferrari with the massive pressures of Italy on his shoulders. Behind him, new boy, Gianni Morbidelli. He has driven for Minardi. Now, as the Ferrari test driver, he gets his big chance to drive in a Grand Prix for Ferrari, and what a Grand Prix to start in. Stefano Modena is next. He had a very, very big off yesterday in practice in his Tyrrell Honda with the V10 engine. The McLarens have got the V12s. And John Lucas is the Tyrrell truckie who was very badly injured in Spain when a hit-and-run driver hit him. He's getting better in hospital. 1 minute to go. 10th on the grid is Pierluigi Martini. That is him in his Minardi Ferrari with the V12 engine. They're losing them after this race. And JJ Leto, the Finnish driver with the Dallara Judd V10 engine, is 11th on the grid. Keke Rosberg's protege. Andrea De Cesaris is 12th in the Jordan. The grid is being cleared. Tim Schenken has again had to make the decision about whether the Australian Grand Prix of 1991 is go, as he had to make the decision in 1989. He has made the same decision. Now, Australia, like everywhere else, is critical in terms of who gets to the first corner first. This is the parade lap and the conditions are appalling.
Yes, really horrible conditions today. And this track particularly is very, very slippery, being an ordinary street circuit, ordinary roads. There's not as much grip as a normal, as a man-made racetrack. And it's bumpy, and these cars have got an awful lot of power. They are great. They are a big handful to control around these streets. Now, of course, the biggest problem of all driving these conditions is visibility for the drivers. These open-wheeled cars with the heavily grooved tyres pick up an enormous amount of water, which, as you can see, is chucked straight up in the air into a fine mist, through which you can see nothing when you're following another car. And in these sort of conditions, even at something like 10 feet, you can't see the rear light of the car in front. There, the wall of spray. Look, Berger has completely disappeared behind Senna, and they're not even at racing speeds. So that is the problem, visibility. The man in the lead has the advantage in these conditions. He's the only one in the race who can see. And the other problem is that the weather looks really shut in at the moment. The cloud is down very low indeed. It's been rolling around the hills around Adelaide all morning and held off. The forecast is that it would clear up in the afternoon, but in fact it really looks as if the weather is shut down, and this race may well be wet throughout. Well, we have an amended weather forecast here, and it says rain periods expected to arrive for the race start. Well, it certainly has, and what's more, as I say, the weather looks very well closed in now. So this is going to be a race of tremendous concentration for the drivers. It's going to be survival just to keep the car on the road here for 80 laps, or 81 laps around Adelaide is an achievement in itself. All the bumps, the curves, and 700 horsepower to control with your right foot is no easy feat.
This pole position, the 60th for Ayrton Senna, is a massive bonus for the Brazilian. And if he doesn't get to the first corner first and complete the first lap first, I am a Chinaman, because he will have a clear track in front of him. He will be throwing up that great grey ball of spray behind him. Do you remember that incredible shot from 1989, where, looking back from the rear of Martin Brundle's Brabham, you suddenly saw Ayrton's McLaren appear looming large, just like a shot from Jaws, slam bang into the back of Brundle's car. That took Senna out of the race. Now, Thierry Boutsen went on to win. The green flag is waved at the back of the grid. The Australian Grand Prix is almost ready to go. And it's a good start by Senna and Berger and Mansell. Nelson Piquet and Schumacher both past Riccardo Patrese. Senna goes into the first, S's first, Berger is second. Through goes Nigel Mansell in third position. Nelson Piquet is in fourth place, and then it is all grey mist. Now they go up to the right-hander at Wakefield turn. This is it. And Schumacher is coming up fast, and so is Nelson Piquet, but it is Senna leading and building a lead. Berger, Mansell, Piquet, Schumacher, then Alesi, Patrese, Morbidelli, Martini, but Maurizio Gutermin, there was nearly a contact, but the corner to watch is Stag Turn. That That's the one where so many of them went off in 1989, and it's the one that they are approaching now. Well, you've just got to find a way to see. You drive into this, they're out of Stag Turn, they're down Jones Straight, they're into Brewery Bend. Senna is leading still. Berger second, Mansell third, Piquet is fourth, Schumacher is fifth, and down in seventh place is Riccardo Patrese. As far as I know, no spinners yet. There's Mansell on the left. Has he passed Berger? Remember, Berger has got a problem. He said he doesn't think he's going to be able to finish this race in great shape. He's still second. Mansell is still third.
Yes, of course, for Berger, these wet conditions are a bit of a bonus because with his tummy problems and being dehydrated, of course, this is a much reduced physical effort to drive the cars, enormously reduced, and that will certainly help him and his chances of finishing the race reasonably fit and well. So, Senna coming around to complete the first lap. Not much incident yet, but really the fight is for visibility. You look at that wall of spray, and believe me, it's worse from the cockpit of a car. You're low down on the track and you see nothing ahead of you. You need to look at the side to get your bearings of where you are on the track. So Senna leads, Berger following at a comfortable distance. Any closer than that and you really can't see anything.
But Michael Schumacher is up into fourth position. The young German has passed his teammate Nelson Piquet, and at the end of the first lap, here is the leader on lap 2, Ayrton Senna. Gerhard Berger was 3.5 seconds behind the Brazilian. We're looking down now on Senna on the left, Berger on the right. Mansell is third, Schumacher is fourth, Piquet is fifth, both the Benettons in the top 5. Jean Alesi is sixth, his teammate Morbidelli in the Ferrari is in 7th position. Well, we're going to get a period now, I think, where drivers are just finding their way on the circuit, getting used to the wet weather tyres. Remember, this is the first time they've been out in conditions like this on these new tyres.
I shall be very interested to watch Michael Schumacher's progress in this race. He has the uninhibition of youth on his side, and most of the top Grand Prix drivers are pretty conservative about how they approach driving in these conditions. Schumacher shouldn't have those reservations, and I would expect him to be exceptionally quick in these conditions.
It's only his 6th Grand Prix. That's Mansell in 3rd position. Schumacher is 4th, and we're coming up towards the end of the second lap. In fact, Senna has completed it, and he's extending his lead over Gerhard Berger in 2nd position as he goes through the S's. Senna then. Ayrton Senna, in his outstanding career, has already won 32. Now, if he does much more of that, and he did one of those in practice and caught it, and that shows you how superlative the reflexes of these Grand Prix drivers are.
Well, there we are. Schumacher already just put up the fastest lap of the race so far. So Schumacher, having passed teammate Nelson Piquet, has established himself straight away as the quickest man on the circuit.
Gerhard Berger has spun. The Austrian driver, you can see there, is in 3rd position now, and that will have taxed him physically as well as mentally. So Nigel Mansell has got just Ayrton Senna. The 2 top men in the championship of 1991 are already starting to fight it out in Australia.
Yes, I'm just going to have a listen to Mansell's engine as he goes past. I thought I detected on the last lap a bit of a miss, and Schumacher's having a go at Berger. Just thinks better of it. And I think Berger's finding life a bit difficult there.
Well, if anybody has bad luck in the McLaren team in 1991, it's Gerhard Berger. He has already failed to finish in 7 of the 15 rounds that we've had so far. The Japanese Grand Prix he won by default rather than on his own, because Senna waved him through, and we are now on lap 4 with Ayrton Senna just under 4 seconds ahead of Nigel Mansell, who has just made the fastest lap of the race in these conditions. Gerhard Berger down to 3rd. Schumacher is in 4th position as you watch Ayrton Senna.
Yes, and Mansell's engine sounded absolutely fine as he went past. It may have had a bit of water in it the previous lap, but whatever happens, he's fine.
And there is a colossal gap between Michael Schumacher, who is in 5th position, and Nelson Piquet, who is 5th. Jean Alesi is 6th in the Ferrari. Morbidelli is still in 7th position, ahead of Riccardo Patrese, who started 4th on the grid, and he had an engine problem and a clutch problem, and his clutch and gearbox were changed just before the race after the warm-up this morning. I'm wondering if there's a recurrence of it. But anyway, now you see, look at Mansell, absolutely slithering on the circuit.
Yes, and Mansell's really got the bit between his teeth. He's closing in on Ayrton Senna, and pity about the conditions, but the stage is set for the two top men of this year's Drivers' Championship to battle it out head-to-head. And Mansell seems to be taking up the challenge just as we would expect.
Indeed. Now, Senna knows he's won the championship. He wants to finish this race on a high note. He has won 6 races already this year. Nigel Mansell has won 5. But if there is one man in this race that Senna cannot put down psychologically, it's true grit Nigel Mansell. And the gap which you see there as 3.9 seconds is now down to 2 seconds, and for the 3rd lap in succession, Mansell, who's on a fantastic charge, has put up the fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 42.954, way off Senna's pole position time, of course, in these dreadful conditions. And before very much longer, Mansell is going to be into that plume of spray that Senna's rear tyres are throwing up, and of course that is going to be a really inhibiting factor for Nigel in the Williams Renault. Senna leads, Mansell 2nd, Berger 3rd, Schumacher 4th, Piquet 5th, Alesi 6th, Morbidelli is 7th, Riccardo Patrese is 8th, Pirro is 9th, De Cesaris is 10th, Modena is 11th, and Guterman is in 12th place.
And looking down from the helicopter just now, we were able to see just how much water those big groove tyres can pick up and throw up into the air. And look at that for a quantity. And Mansell as well, he's pulling out, staying to one side of the plume of spray, trying to get visibility, but he really is in a very murky view indeed. And certainly he can't see anything straight ahead. He will get his bearings from looking at the side, at the track to his sides to see where he is, and just watching that plume of spray.
Yeah, and Mansell has got a bonus in the Williams Renault in comparison with that man, Ayrton Senna, the race leader. Senna is driving the McLaren with a gearbox where he has to take his hand off the steering wheel to change gears, whereas Nigel Mansell has the semi-automatic gearbox, and all he has to do is operate a rocking lever with his fingers, which means to say that he can keep both hands on the wheel all the time, and that could be, I'm sure, is very important in these appalling conditions. And look, Mansell right with Senna now.
And Schumacher's disappeared. Schumacher was behind Berger. He's dropped back. Well, he's reappeared, so Schumacher's had a spin by the look of it. And Mansell right there. Now, this is really difficult. What Nigel Mansell's doing now, he's having to pretty much guess where he is. He has virtually no visibility at all. He's doing this literally from memory of the track. But to get past, he's got to get right in tight behind Senna. He can't stay this close for very long. He's got to make his bid and try and do it. You can't follow like that for more than a couple of laps. You'd have to drop back and have a rest. So Mansell challenging. Berger is still in touch behind them.
Piquet is now 4th as Mansell moves to the right to get out of that spray from Senna's rear wing. He has to move across to the left to go into racetrack hairpin, the right-hander, now coming up to paddock turn and down to the end of the 6th lap in this 81-lap Australian Grand Prix. Well, we would have liked to see the sunshine. We would have liked to have had clear blue skies, but we haven't got them. However, up front, what a titanic struggle with Piquet there. And off goes Piquet. What a masterly recovery, 360-degree spin back onto the circuit, and I don't think he even lost his 4th position. Nelson Piquet on Pirelli tyres, the leaders on Goodyears. Maybe the Goodyear new rain tyre is doing the job slightly better than the Pirelli, although Nelson Piquet was certainly pushing it. You see, he lost the back end, it rides over the curb. That's at Stag Turn, the corner which claimed Nigel Mansell's Ferrari in 1989. And Ayrton Senna now knows that he's got a real battle on his hands. We've got the two toughest fighters in Grand Prix racing at the front in Australia. Lap 7. Senna leads Mansell by a gap that you can see. Gerhard Berger is third, Nelson Piquet is fourth, Riccardo Patrese is fifth, Gianni Morbidelli is sixth in the Ferrari, Pirro is seventh, De Cesaris is eighth, Modena is ninth, and you will have noticed I have not mentioned the name of Alesi. What about Mansell? He's going for it, he's right up alongside, and that's possibly the reason that's the Jack Brabham straight. On the left is Larini's car, on the right is Alesi's Ferrari, it looks like, and that's why the French Sicilian has disappeared.
Yes, and also missing from our chart, didn't come past was Schumacher, so I suspect he may have been involved in that because he was racing pretty much with Alesi at the time. And now I'm having a look to see if the red flag, there's no red flag out at the start-finish line at the moment, but certainly there's an awful lot of carnage out on the Brabham straight there, and once again it looks like visibility on the straight that's been the problem. We had that 2 years ago, and furious work there to get the track cleared, but there's an awful lot of debris around, and I think I'd be surprised if they don't have to stop the race to clear that up.
Yes, because these drivers who are going round at the front now at terrifying speeds in the conditions have got to remember that there were two cars on the Jack Brabham straight, and incidentally it is the 25th anniversary today, to the day, of the day that Sir Jack Brabham won his last Grand Prix, with Ayrton Senna leading this one by 1.5 seconds from Nigel Mansell, Berger third, Piquet fourth, Patrese fifth, Morbidelli sixth.
Yes, it is a real problem, this visibility in these cars, because whilst driving in the wet and controlling these cars in wet, slippery conditions, of course, demands a great degree of skill, and that's what we all want to see these drivers use. But when you can't see where you're going, that doesn't require skill, that requires madness in a way, because it requires just guesswork, and that's bravery to a stupid extent.
That's Thierry Boutsen getting out of the Ligier, so that's the fourth retirement we know about. Larini, Alesi, Schumacher, and the 1989 winner in Australia. Thierry Boutsen's 1991 race has finished very early, and I'm sure he will be absolutely delighted because the conditions are appalling, and he absolutely detests the Ligier Lamborghini that he was having to drive in that race. So being out of it will be a good thing from his point of view. Nigel Mansell there, second position. We are coming up to the completion of lap 8, which is already 1/10th distance in the Grand Prix. With Mansell there second, the gap has increased to 2.7 seconds between Ayrton Senna, and that is Eric Comas, who is about to be lapped in his Ligier Lamborghini by Ayrton Senna. Now, does he know Senna's there? It doesn't really matter because he's passed him. Now, does he know that Mansell is bearing down on him? This is the Frenchman's first Grand Prix season, and he has not driven in a race like this, never mind in the Ligier Lamborghini.
Yes, and if it's possible, I think the conditions have got even worse than when we started the race, because the lap times have actually got a little bit slower. They're now lapping about 3 or 4 seconds slower than they were in the opening few laps. Well, it would appear that the race direction have decided that the accident can be cleared satisfactorily and safely, and I'm sure they're right about that. The standard direction here is extremely good. The organisers are very efficient, but the one thing they can't organise is do anything about is this weather.
Well, Terry, you've been out there. What are the conditions like compared to a couple of years ago?
Well, it's a lot worse. It's raining a lot more, and it's very, very dangerous. I don't understand why they don't stop the race. I mean, it's impossible. I went in third gear every lap. I was in third gear down the straight, no more. And I had aquaplaning. I lost the car, went from left to right. If it continues like this, and I hope not. The conditions are so bad, I hope we will not see more accidents than what's happening now, but it's really impossible to drive in these conditions.
Okay, what has put you out of the race?
Hitting streams across the track. And Senna, his usual self, slicing his way through the back markers with the utmost confidence.
Now, Senna has got a mind which has almost computer-like precision. There's Mansell second. There is Berger, who is third. And I'm quite sure that Ayrton Senna will be reminding himself that these conditions are just like the ones in 1989 when he ploughed into the back of Martin Brundle's Brabham, and that he must be especially careful when he's closing up on and diving into a ball of spray at 150 miles an hour. That's Nigel Mansell behind Pierluigi Martini, who is coming up to lap and does so. But of course, if Senna backs off, there's a spinner, and that is Pierluigi Martini, just being missed by Alex Caffey in exactly the same place as the others have gone off. The others being Jean Alesi, Michael Schumacher, Nicola Larini, the yellow flags waving, and Mansell right up with Senna, just as I expected. Now, Mansell has taken the opportunity to close right up on the McLaren. This is lap 10, and there is the Williams. You see, if you relax for a second, that gives a hard-charging driver behind you the opportunity to come right up to you. But then Mansell has again got the same problem, the ball of spray, and the knowledge that inside it, ahead of it, is his chief rival in the World Championship and this race, Ayrton Senna, lap 11. Senna, 1.6 seconds ahead of Mansell. Here's a replay of Pierluigi Martini. You see, he was going straight and true. They have improved the drainage on the Sir Jack Brabham Straight since 1989, but there must still be a pool of water there because Martini went straight into it and then revolved.
Yes, it almost looks as if he hit a bit of debris or something. I couldn't see anything, but it looked, the car's turned so suddenly as if it hit something solid. Really horrendous conditions. This is not fun for a racing driver. Driving on a wet track when it's not raining and there's not a lot of water and spray is, as I say, challenging and demanding. But this is really a lottery.
It's a lottery now with Senna coming up on Alex Caffey in the footwork, and Mansell may see his opportunity here. If Senna decides to go to the left, Mansell may decide to go to the right. It could happen. Senna's going to the right, Mansell nearly loses it. This is racetrack hairpin. Caffey is still in the way, and Mansell's in there somewhere. There he is, and now Senna is still held up by Caffey. No, he's not, he gets past, but it's given Mansell the opportunity to close. He started to lose it there.
Yes, I don't think Caffey's aware that Senna's right behind him. And of course they had the yellow flags with that incident on the straight, and when you're under a yellow flag, of course you're not allowed to overtake. You have to stay in line astern. So Senna, abnormal difficulty for him in getting past Caffey. Caffey's got the power on early, and he may yet still struggle.
Well, this is not a case of tiptoe through the tulips, it's a case of tiptoe down the main straight very shortly, because that's where the trouble is, and tiptoe is what they have to do. Now, Senna goes past Caffey, who moves out on Nigel Mansell, but happily sees the Williams Renault just in time. I thought there was going to be a coming together, but Nigel Mansell has got through. We are on lap 12. Now, here is where they are. They have cleared the series of right and left right-angle bends. This is Market's turn. They're coming up to the notorious Stag turn, which they take at about 70 miles an hour, even in these conditions. Down the Jones Straight, and Mansell coming up alongside. He has a look, and he gets clear conditions there, but Senna turns into Brewery Bend. Now they're up to the tricky bit. This is the Jack Brabham Straight, where so many people have gone off. The yellow flags are waving. Senna goes through. Mansell goes through, Berger is still third, Piquet is still fourth. You can see the track vehicle on the circuit there with its hazard lights flashing. Piquet is fourth, Patrese is fifth, Morbidelli is sixth, Pirro is seventh, De Cesaris is eighth, Modena is ninth, Gugelmin is 10th, and Zanardi is in 11th place ahead of Johnny Herbert, who went off this morning in conditions nothing like as bad as this, but he and the car were okay. This really is a race of the titans. No words of mine can explain how appalling the conditions are. Never mind when you've got 700 horsepower under your right foot. And this is lap 13.
Yes, and you really have to admire Mansell's efforts in this race. It's a horrible job he's got there in the plume of spray from Senna's car, and he's really putting on a magnificently gutsy performance here, and an extremely skilled one, because he's got very, very restricted visibility, and it's a real fine balancing act keeping that car on the road. Now, this is the area where Mansell has been quick and can attack Senna, but the problem for him is as he gets onto the straight here, they've got the accident halfway up with the yellow flags going, and he's not allowed to overtake there, even if he's in a position so to do.
And out of the Australian Grand Prix of 1991 has gone the man who made the fastest lap in the dreadful light conditions in 1989, Satoru Nakajima. He has finished his last Grand Prix in his career because he is retiring after the Australian Grand Prix. He'll be sorry, but I'm not, I think, too sorry. We're on lap 13. Out of the Australian Grand Prix have gone Nicola Larini, Jean Alesi, Michael Schumacher, Thierry Boutsen, Satoru Nakajima, Pierluigi Martini. How many are going to be left after 81 laps? I don't think we're going to see 81 laps completed, because the rule says that the Grand Prix distance should be 2 hours or the designated number of laps. Well, if you can't do the designated number of laps in 2 hours, it's going to be 2 hours. And we've had that before in Australia. And again, Mansell is pressing. He's dropping back, gathering himself, and then repeatedly having another go. And this is one.
Yes, and the track clearly seems to be a little bit quicker now. That's a new fastest lap for Senna. Mansell's closed right up. They seem to be finding just a little bit more grip on the circuit. Tremendous battle between these two. A fitting finish to a season where they have battled out for the championship. Well, that's Patrese. It looks like the splitter is adrift, or maybe he's picked up some debris. If you look, you're looking at.
Well, clearly, yes, it's Riccardo Patrese. The whole of the under tray has worked loose. You can see it vibrating, and that, of course, is going to compound Riccardo's appalling problems in this race. He's gone from 5th to 6th to 7th, and Morbidelli is up into 5th position. There is the Italian in the Ferrari, in the points in his first race for Maranello, and you see his high-intensity rear light disappearing into the gloom as Senna and Mansell come through to complete another lap. I remember after that appalling Belgian Grand Prix, when Johnny Herbert came in to talk to me during the race, I said to him, how close do you have to be to see the red light in front of you? And he said, well, with your helmet on the lens, just about. That's how close you have to be. Senna leads, Mansell second. You can see for yourself the gap. Gerhard Berger is nearly 4 seconds behind in 3rd position.
Yes, and closing though with a new fastest lap for Berger. So he's now the fastest man on the circuit, and seems to have settled into a rhythm, and he's very much tracking the leading pair.
And I know it's early days, it's only lap 15 in this 81 lap race, but for McLaren the situation now is good for the Constructors' Championship. Ayrton Senna leads, that's 10 points. Gerhard Berger is in third position, that's 4 points. Nigel Mansell is on 6 points, and Riccardo Patrese with that loose under tray is dropping down through the field and seems unlikely to score. In which case, McLaren with 11 points lead when the race started will coast it home to the Constructors' Championship again, and it could be that Gerhard Berger will finish in second position because, as James has pointed out, he's now the quickest man on the circuit, and you can see that far from being 4 seconds behind Nigel Mansell, who is second, he is closing up. Now there's Patrese, look underneath the number 6, and you can see the whole of the under tray there.
I think that looks like somebody's front wing he's picked up. That's somebody else's front wing, and it's the problem of running over debris on the track. As the leaders go through, start another lap, and Berger only 3 seconds behind Mansell.
There's a spinner. I saw somebody spinning, and I can see the marshal's flags waving in the background. Well, let's see. Could it have been Mansell? Yes, it is. Nigel Mansell has spun out of the Australian Grand Prix, and that is the end of his race. And possibly that was the cause of it. Michele Alboreto. Well, that's the end of the Constructors' Championship on lap 16 for Williams, and the end of it for McLaren. McLaren have won the Constructors' Championship in Australia, just as they won the Drivers' Championship with Ayrton Senna in Japan. What I can't see is where Nigel... Hey, that's Gerhard Berger. Well, the conditions are getting worse. Now, I wouldn't be at all surprised if this race is going to be stopped. It's absolutely lashing down in the start and finish point. And if this race goes to 75% of its distance, which is 61 laps, it would count as a full race with full championship points. And it looks as though there's a major problem on the left there as Patrese comes through.
Yes, the rain's come down even harder. The visibility has gone there. This is a replay of Berger's rather spectacular spin, bouncing it over the curb, was pirouetting, car on its tummy, and he did a very nifty departure. But really was cars off around the circuit, and I really think that this isn't a proper race anymore. Senna's waving there. Senna waving to the clerk, to the people on the start-finish line, and he's calling. Sorry.
Berger out. Berger off the course, into the wall, stalled engine, and Senna is now getting very agitated indeed. Stop the race, he's saying.
Red flag is out, red flag out. Red flag on the start-finish line, so the race has been stopped.
Unsurprisingly and quite correctly. Now, there are inevitably going to be criticism. OK, all right, Ayrton, they've seen you, they've heard you, they're stopping the race. I'm mildly surprised that he doesn't know through his headphones from Ron Dennis or whoever talks to him. There's Gerhard Berger out. Well, he won't know, of course, that the race has been stopped. As far as he's concerned, a dreadful night has been followed by a dreadful day as Gianni Morbidelli walks in, and Piquet was up to second position. Now, and that is Morbidelli motoring in, I think, to cross the line and activate the timing mechanism, in which case he will have been in third position at the end of this lap as the race car comes in. Well, I was saying that there will inevitably be criticisms of... Now, this is Gerhard Berger. You see, full lock, no adhesion, just kisses the curb, onto the runoff area. He didn't hit anything, but he stalled the engine. Nigel Mansell being helped into the medical wagon. He had hurt, that's Professor Sid Watkins, who is the FISA doctor who is helping him in. You remember Nigel Mansell actually hurt his leg in a football match in Spain. He was still having problems in Japan, and it may well be that the colossal contact of his spin into the concrete wall will have activated the problem. Now, I will get it out this time, probably. There will inevitably be criticisms about the organisers for starting the race at all. That is Modena being passed by Senna. But Tim Schenken decided in '89, and he decided again that the race would be go, and it's a very difficult decision to make.
Yes, it's a horrible position for Schenken to be put in, because there's a world waiting to see the race, but quite frankly, the conditions today, Patrese looks pretty angry about that, and the conditions, that was not a proper motor race. It was not a test of skill. It was a test. It was really just a lottery and luck once the conditions got really bad like that. So a lot of cars stopped out on the circuit now, and they'll regroup, and we'll have to wait and see what the organisers intend to do. But I would imagine at best they'll wait for the conditions to improve with a view to restarting the race, or they may abandon altogether, because this weather looks very set at the moment, as the cloud is right down on the ground here, and there really looks no chance of an improvement.
Stefano Modena pirouetting, and at the end of the 16th lap, Ayrton Senna came through 34 seconds ahead of Piquet. That's Riccardo Patrese being chased down the pit lane by Ant Bradshaw. I don't know why he's rushing down, probably to talk to Senna. There he is. Morbidelli was in third place in the Ferrari, De Cesaris was fourth, Zanardi in the Jordan was in fifth position, and Modena was in sixth place. But normally they will count the positions on the preceding lap, and in that case it was Senna leading Mansell, who had not at that time gone off, by 2.5 seconds, with Berger third, who of course subsequently went off, Piquet fourth, Morbidelli fifth, and Riccardo Patrese in sixth position. Senna, well, Senna is of course, as world champion, the man to whom people look these days as a mature sense. Oh, hello, that's Riccardo Patrese going up to tell the officials what the time of day is. And I have a vague suspicion what the Italian might be saying, and I think he might even be using the sort of words that he used when he walked in Spain after his car had broken down on the hot lap. And if he does, I just hope that the officials up there do not speak Italian. Ayrton Senna disappears into his garage, and now we have to. What an awful, sad situation for everybody. It's sad for the drivers, sad for the constructors, sad for Formula One Grand Prix racing, terribly sad for the spectators who have come from all parts of the world and Australia. Well, there's Ron Frost on the right, the boss man of racing in New Zealand, having a little think. He's going to get a nasty shock in a minute if Ricciardo bursts in through the door. And those are those tyres I was telling you about, as Mansell's Williams is retrieved. That is one of the footwork cars on the left. I don't know whether it's Alboretto's or Caffey's. Well, look, you see, I mean, if it was you who had to say, OK, fellas, get back in the cars, put on your helmets, it's going to be very dangerous. Barry Sheene there, it's going to be very dangerous, but have a go for it. And I think Barry Sheene is getting ready to talk to Ayrton Senna and find out what the Brazilian 3 times world champion thinks ought to be done about Australia 1991. Senna probably thinks it would be a good idea to sweep it into the sea, but since it's half under it already, that is not very likely. That's Nakajima's car.
They must consider our lives, you know. We are professionals, we try to run. We already try all together to show that we could try to race, but we just cannot, you know. Everyone is just going off, and you cannot even go in third gear on the main straight. And this is just too dangerous. I think somebody's going to get badly hurt if someone is not already hurt after those shunts. And we got to really take in consideration for once our lives, you know.
Well, I really don't blame him. There's no two ways about it. You know, with the conditions as they are, I can't see that they can possibly run the race. The rain is bucketing down now, and there's so much surface where I'd spoken to the lady from Williams, and she said that Patrese was just so needled because so many people were ignoring the yellow flag and overtaking. And it's silly, you know, because somebody's going to end up getting hurt. Back to you, Ken, Jackie.
Well, thanks, Barry. As we saw Nigel Mansell's car being carried off there by the wrecker truck with only 3 wheels on it. The sentiments aired there by Ayrton Senna, I'm sure, are being confirmed by Patrese. I have to say that it seems the track has really become waterlogged, and when those conditions are prevalent, it's got to be the decision of someone who's had some experience in racing. Tim Schenken certainly has had that. I hope that he has not been in any way pressured by other people on the sidelines, but you can see the intensity of the rain there, and you can see the water flowing across the road surface. There's one of the Leighton House cars, very severely damaged, both corners of the left side wiped out, and there you see the spin of Gerhard Berger getting into the gravel there. He came to a stop. I'm not sure that he hit anything. He might have been able to continue had he been able to restart the engine. But the amount of carnage off here, and there is Patrese leaving the tower where he no doubt did reach some of the officials. I don't know whether Barry Sheene can have a word with him on the way back, but I'm sure he would have something to say to us. Emotion on occasions like this has to be controlled very carefully. Mind over matter it has to be, and that is the ESPN. And there's Barry, as we can see Barry walking down with him, I think waiting for a crew to take the opportunity of speaking to Ricardo. These are very high pressure.
I mean, it's enough for you to look, eh? I know. I mean, I have to make no comment. You look around and you judge.
Well, I think that just about sums it up. We look around and we judge. Well, we can see what the conditions are like. I mean, nobody can be asked to race in this. It's ridiculous. Back to you, Jackie.
Well, there's a man very clear with his conviction on this. Riccardo Patrese, the veteran of Grand Prix racing here with regards to the number of races started. He's had more racing miles than anyone else in this field. He's not a man of mild heart. He's a very courageous man. It's a shame because everyone's come here to see the greatest show on earth, really, in sport, and a bigger sports audience for television you will not see unless it's the World Cup or the Olympics, and they only take place every 4 years. So we have this kind of audience for every single Grand Prix. Everyone was looking forward to seeing this in every corner of the world. Channel 9's coverage is now recognised to be the finest in the world, and I'm sure everyone was locked into viewing it. Too bad, really. However, we'll be back for more coverage of this Grand Prix of Australia in just a few moments.
O Michele Alboreto continua dentro do seu carro, esperando para ver o que acontece. E a gente fica aí na expectativa do que possa vir a acontecer nesse Grande Prêmio da Austrália.
Bom, pelo regulamento, se a prova não puder ser reiniciada, fica valendo aquela classificação, a classificação da volta anterior a que foi interrompida, e os pontos serão contados pela metade. Mas, de qualquer forma, o Senna somaria mais uma vitória à sua carreira.
A vitória fica constando. Se bem que não houve a bandeirada, a prova foi interrompida. Olha só, o Pierluigi Martini. Mas olha a pancada, olha o que passa um piloto nessas condições, a pancada que ele levou. Pela declaração do Senna, você vê que a velocidade era menor do que aquela que eu me referia, porque diz que eles estavam usando apenas a terceira. Aí, 10 minutos. E a direção de prova considera que daqui a 10 minutos, quer dizer, ou seja, além de tudo, ele deve ser um gênio da meteorologia, porque ele considera que daqui a 10 minutos a chuva vai diminuir e tem condições de participar da prova. Começo a achar difícil um retorno, por exemplo, de Ayrton Senna, de Riccardo Patrese. Começo a achar difícil um retorno de Senna, de Patrese. Alguns pilotos estão ali dentro do carro. A direção de prova dá a placa dos 10 minutos. Você mais uma vez vai ver a rodada do Berger. Ele rodou 2 vezes dentro da mesma volta. Essa é a primeira delas. Mas essa aí é aquela que eu disse. O Assoalho foi embora ali embaixo, já compromete suspensão. Agora, olha só quantos carros tem parados ali no grid por uma largada. Tem uns 4 ou 5 carros parados ali, não tem mais.
Welcome back to Adelaide. That is the scene on pit lane. The cars are lined up there, and Jackie, we've just been informed that 10 minutes before a race restart. Well, that's what's been shown to us by one of the officials. That means that there has been a committee meeting in the control tower. I just hope that the clerk of the course, Tim Schenken, if that's his decision, that's his decision, but I think it's going to be an extremely unpopular one with the drivers, and I suspect there'll be a mass approach to the tower shortly by the leading drivers. That's what happened before in 1979. I hope he's not being exposed to outside pressures to make that decision. Alan Jones, now you must know this as I do from the driver's seat. What's your view on it?
Well, Jackie, I mean, you were fantastic in the wet, and I've always been a believer that if you're getting paid that sort of money to drive a motor car, that you should be able to do it. And I think that motor racing is only as dangerous as you want to make it. If you think it's too wet, slow down. But I think in these conditions, I think the circuit is too waterlogged, and I think visibility is a major problem. And I think they did the right thing this time, stopping the race. They have hung out the 10-minute sign. I believe there could be another one after that. They're getting reports through from the airport to say that it will eventually blow through. I think they've hung out a 10-minute. If the conditions remain exactly the same as what they are now, I wouldn't be surprised to see them hang out another one, because in my mind, to start the race now in these conditions, well, why stop it? Because they're exactly the same as when it was stopped.
Tim Schenken is in the hot seat right now, a fellow Australian and Grand Prix driver, also a man who drove for Brabham team. Do you think he's making this decision on his own, Alan?
Yes, I think Tim has the strength of character to do that. When he hopped out of the car after doing an exploratory lap before, I said, Tim, are you going? He said, we're starting it, and that's it. He was very firm. I don't think it'll be too much outside pressure to bear, although I think he has the ability or capability of listening to the driver's point of view, and being an ex-driver, I hope that he will listen to them and make the decision accordingly.
Alan Kent here. Now, they stopped the race. Was it because of the condition of the track or the debris on the track? Was it the rain or was it the debris, to be clear?
Well, I think it might have been the debris, because to give them a chance to get that out of the way, because it was very dangerous. People couldn't see the debris because of the spray, and this could be the reason that they have a full intention of restarting it in 10 minutes' time.
Carlo Patrese absolutely furious. Would you see him going out again?
I would doubt it, because I tell you what, he was on the rev limiter in the Williams pits. He was screaming and yelling, and the very best of Italy was coming out of him. He was saying to Frank and Patrick that, he doesn't give a damn what happens, and he's not going to do this ever again, and, all the full sort of Italian bit. I would say that if the conditions remain like this, I would very much doubt he's going to put his bum in the car, quite frankly.
The track did seem to be taking quite a long time to clear on Brabham Straight. There were several cars wrecked there, and it seemed to have taken abnormally long to get them cleared away from there. And of course, people were exposed to the speeds involved, and I think the Martini incident, while they were still trying to clear up, Alan, Martini crashed into the wall. We're looking at Brabham Straight right now, and of course it's clear as a whistle right now, but it was very congested earlier.
Well, I'm surprised they didn't stop the race a little bit earlier than what they did, quite frankly, because the visibility was absolutely appalling. There were cars on each side of the track, exactly where other cars were aquaplaning. And as you know, Jackie, when you're aquaplaning like that and hit another car, that can be extremely dangerous, because you get bits of the car protruding out, wheels and so forth, and that's very dangerous indeed.
We've just been told, Alan, that the debris on the track was the official reason for stopping the race.
Yeah, well, that's what we heard down here at the start line too, Ken, and that's what makes me believe that in about 7 or 8 minutes from now they will restart it.
What do you think the position on the grid will be? Do you think that the teams are just going to go along with it, or do you see mass pullouts?
Well, I see a bit of aggravation, quite frankly. I think there's going to be some differing opinions when it comes to about the old 3-minute sign.
Alan, maybe you could do some inquiries down there for us, because as we look from our commentary position, there are only in fact 6 cars on the grid right now, so maybe if you wouldn't mind with Barry to find out what the other teams are doing about where are the cars and why are they not on the grid if there's been a signal to start in less than 10 minutes.
All right, Jackie, well, I'll hand it back to you, and in the meantime I'll go and make some inquiries and get back to you.
Great.
Yeah, well, it's clear as mud in many ways. You've got to get the teams on side to get them back out. Ayrton Senna's car is on the front row, so I guess the McLaren team are keen to run, well, as keen as you would be in these sort of conditions. But after that, as you say, the grid is very, very sparse.
Well, I'd rather wonder where all the cars are. I mean, they may have come into the pit lane, they may have been reversed back into the garages. I'm looking down to have a look and see what I can see in the garage areas. There aren't not a really busy garage area right now. I don't know where the cars are, whether they're stocked out in the circuit or whether they're tucked into their garages.
Well, Alan Jones is down there with the boss of McLaren, Ron Dennis.
Yes, Ken, I'm here with Ron Dennis. We believe that there's some drivers that aren't going to start. Ron, what is your position? What is your view on this?
Well, we don't want to be making the decision for the clerk of the course, but it's obviously very wet, very slippery. We'd like to give the fans here a race, but it really is quite dangerous. I hope that just there's good judgment brought to bear, but it's really too early to say. I think they have to keep reviewing the situation, but it really does need to stop raining to stand any chance. I don't think we would start the race unless it stops raining.
All right, so it's very much a wait-and-see situation at the moment, but let me just put you on the spot. If the 3-minute signal comes up or the 2-minute signal comes up right now, what do you reckon you'd do?
I don't think we'd start the race. We have a big investment in our drivers, and we intend to look after them and our investment, but it's too dangerous now. We'll race if it's safe, or even if it just stops raining, but now it's too dangerous.
All right, Ron, well, thank you very much. Okay, Ken, back to you.
Thank you. Well, you've got to ask yourself, are the conditions any worse than 89? Of course, a lot of people said that race shouldn't have gone ahead anyway.
Well, I think so, but these are extremely strong words from Ron Dennis, and I'm not sure that those words will in fact have been heard by the powers that be. I don't mean just Tim Schenken, but Bernie Ecclestone, the FIA stewards of the meeting here, who have all, I am sure, been in on the decision that was made to put the red flag out. This was not just a single-man decision, in my opinion. So I think what's going on now, I don't know whether everyone will have heard Ron Dennis's opinion, although clearly it is not Ron Dennis's decision. If enough of the team owners, team managers and drivers lobby, then I think we're going to see some fairly upset people in these next few minutes.
Well, some of the teams are going ahead. It's business as usual for some of them. The officials looking out at the tower there, gauging the situation, but the rain is still coming down quite steadily.
And those officials are sitting in a covered area with no jackets on, no racing suits on, no helmets on, and no exposure at all to the type of dangers. Some of them never have had the opportunity of driving under those conditions.
Well, Alan Jones is just about to solve another riddle for us, why there aren't any cars, or so many cars on the grid.
Yeah, Ken, well, apparently it was the organisers' fault. When the race was stopped, they marshalled half the cars into the pit area and let some go out back onto the grid. So that's why you haven't got a full range of cars out on the grid. Most of them were marshalled into the pit area.
Alan, Nigel Mansell, he crashed after the red flag was out. What's his situation? Can he take part in the race if
I
it's a
believe
restart?
so. Yeah, I believe so. I believe that they have a spare car, and I believe he will be allowed to restart if and when the race gets going again.
Alan, we saw Nigel Mansell being assisted by Professor Watkins into an ambulance, in fact, from the side of the crashed car. Perhaps someone might inquire from the Williams team what the situation is with Nigel.
Well, I'm making my way up towards the McLaren and Williams teams now. I was just stopped by Peter Collins, team manager for Lotus, and he was the one that told me about the cars being marshalled into the pit area. So I'll continue up there and try and find out, and I'll get back to you.
Good on you. Thanks, Alan. Busy man down there in the pits. A lot of news taking place. Out it goes again. 10 minutes more to go before a race restart.
Well, that's the second 10-minute call we've had. It's an unusual situation. The organisation here knows, I dare say, what it's doing. I think it's probably being told, however, by others. And now we see someone else being carried home, at least trying to stay dry. I don't know if I can ever remember a real lobby of drivers going up and saying there will be no race, or for that matter, team managers. Team managers generally are frightened to do that, and that's why I say what Ron Dennis just stated a few minutes back were fairly profound words. Because team managers have usually got pressure from sponsors who want the race to be run for obvious reasons. Ron Dennis is very much the master of his own destiny in this, And that's why I think he can perhaps afford more to say that than some of the smaller teams. But certainly it would be very much recognised if someone of his weight were to speak out.
Well, there are a list of retirements from the race before it was stopped. Nakajima, Schumacher, Alesi, Larini, Boutsen, Martini, Gugelman, Mansell and Berger. But as Alan Jones said, Mansell stopped his race after the red flag?
Yes, and 16 laps also. Berger, both of those drivers technically perhaps could restart this race because the red flag is shown to stop the race, but results are based on 1 lap prior to the red flag being shown.
So that's 1 lap prior to Mansell crashing?
That's what, as I understand, but if Mansell crashed more than 1 lap before the red flag went out, clearly he would be excluded, and then he would not be able to use a backup car, and his car, as we've already seen on the wrecker truck, only had 3 wheels in it, and even with the consummate skill of Nigel Mansell, it would be very difficult to drive the car on 3 wheels.
Yeah, well, there's no walking on water or even driving on water here today, is there? Because it is fairly ordinary. And
well,
there is the
Michele Alboreto, and he is absolutely in his car, and he would appear to be ready to go.
But as we said yesterday, look at the design of this car. It is shaped like a canoe.
Or even a submarine, and after all, this is the conditions where it may best work. But I think that Michele Alboreto, by the way, is an ex-Ferrari driver, came close to winning the World Championship 1 year, and since then has had a sort of difficult time and has not had great success. The official standings that we have at the present time is with Ayrton Senna at this stage would be leading this race. It would become a 2-part race, incidentally. Nigel Mansell second at that time, Berger third, Piquet fourth, Patrese fifth, and Morbidelli in 6th place. Now, if Patrese refuses to start and Mansell is unable to start, Berger's car will have been brought back, and I don't think there was any severe damage done to it. In 7th position, Pirro. Then De Cesare is in the Jordan car, Zanardi also in the Jordan car, Modena, another driver from Italy, in 10th position, Johnny Herbert from the United Kingdom in 11th, and then Leto is in 12th position. Another comment from the pits, Alan Jones.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jackie. I've just been in to see Nigel. He has actually damaged ever so slightly the ankle that he had damaged when he was playing that soccer game, and he's given his neck a fair old jar, so he's definitely out come what may. He won't be restarting, but he is okay apart from that.
And I noticed Patrese, we had a shot of Patrese there. He's still boiling.
Yeah, he's still on the rev limiter. He hasn't come down much at all, and I think it's very questionable what he's going to do.
Is there any chance, if you're down at the Williams pit, do you think he's approachable and ask him if he would restart under those conditions, Alan?
Well, Jackie, I can go and try and ask him, and I'll come back to you if I can get a word with him.
Lovely.
Yeah, well, Jonesy's done some tough driving in his time, but this is going to be one of the tougher assignments because there is nothing more daunting than approaching a very, very angry driver, and I think he might have an ear.
Ricardo's wife there with him, incidentally, the lovely blonde lady that's smiling, I hope, to Alan Jones as he walks in, and that indeed is who she's smiling at. A tough time for the girls under those conditions, such dangerous conditions. They've got to go with what their husbands feel. They've got, look, you can see there, she's big blowout there. She's really, I think she thinks that maybe Ricardo's not going to restart, but a lot of stress for the girls.
Yeah, what you've got to think of is so many of these fellows are family men, you know, and Michele Alboreto yesterday having breakfast, and he was talking about his 2 beautiful daughters, you know, how close he is and how much he misses them. You don't see that side of the Formula One Grand Prix driver all the time, but they're family men, married, they've got responsibilities, they've got their loves, and there is more to life for them than running around in these cars, and particularly in conditions like this, I guess.
Well, it is their profession nevertheless, and they do it with a commitment that is difficult to match anywhere in the world. They do get paid a great deal of money, but it's on occasions such as this, and you saw the richest man in motor racing, Ayrton Senna, out there in abominable conditions, and if he is the $25 million man that they speak of for 1992, he's still prepared to go out in those conditions and is still capable of leading the race. Now that's where you see the true grit, the real value of the talent here. And I mean, sometimes I wonder if I ever drove a racing car when I see those conditions, and I sit back and I say to myself, good on them.
Have you ever seen a situation in your time of racing, Jackie, a situation where drivers ganged up, teams ganged up on the official rule?
No, I think there was a lot of pressure here in 1979, 89, when Alain Prost more or less refused to continue. And I think that certainly was the closest thing for anything to happen, because Terry Boutsen said he wasn't going to do it either. The trouble was, when the horn went, there was a lot of people just decided, well, if they're going to start, I've got to start. And they got into their cars and drove.
And Thierry, who did not want to race, ended up winning the Grand Prix. Alan Jones, what have you got for us?
Yeah, Ken, an interesting situation. I've just been talking to Frank and Patrick Head, and they've got the old rule book out there. They're going to hold a 10-minute signal up. If it hasn't rained or stopped raining by then, they'll hold another one. If it hasn't stopped by then, which is 20 minutes, they will cancel the race and award half points.
Well, that is the definitive answer, and
but that's the answer from Frank and the Williams team, and I'm sure Frank's reading of the rule book is extremely accurate. It would be interesting to find out, and maybe we can from some of the officials, what their intentions are. In the meantime, we'll be back here in Adelaide after this commercial message.
Mas o segundo e terceiro colocados não estariam numa nova largada, então a discussão é exatamente para onde iria o carro de Nelson Piquet. Mas nós falávamos aí da ausência de Alain Prost nesse grande prêmio da Austrália.
Difícil e sem vitórias para quem já foi chamado de professor. Alain Prost, o recorde de 44 vitórias e 3 títulos, todos pela McLaren. Na Ferrari, o francês teve um casamento difícil e complicado. Uma temporada sem vitórias. A última foi ano passado no Grande Prêmio da Espanha. Este ano, Prost derrapa na volta de apresentação em San Marino. E depois, no GP do Japão, compara a Ferrari a um caminhão. Como castigo, ficou a pé antes da temporada acabar. E pode se despedir das pistas sem as homenagens dos campeões.
Mas a falta do Prost foi sentida já nessa corrida, durante os treinos oficiais, segundo o próprio diretor Claudio Lombardi, que pela primeira vez neste ano a Ferrari ficou fora, nenhum dos seus carros, entre as 3 primeiras filas de largada. E o Lombardi dizia que realmente faltou um piloto acertador de carro. O Morbidelli, que é piloto de teste, não tem nenhuma experiência, e o Alesi, que sabidamente não é um acertador de carro. Agora há pouco vocês viram ali um dos técnicos da Benetton conversando ali com um assessor da direção de prova, pelo menos é o que está ali no ponto em que é dada a bandeirada, ele para perguntar a posição do carro do Piquet, exatamente porque na 16ª volta, que foi a volta da interrupção, o Piquet estava na 2ª posição, mas vale, no caso de interrupção definitiva, vale a colocação da 14ª, por isso é que eles foram perguntar e acabaram colocando realmente o carro do Piquet ali como se fosse o segundo lugar, o segundo colocado ao lado da McLaren de Senna.
Numa eventual nova largada, uma primeira fila toda brasileira, 6 títulos mundiais na primeira fila de uma nova largada no Grande Prêmio da Austrália. O tricampeão Ayrton Senna e o tricampeão Nelson.
The rain is still coming down in Adelaide, and it has not diminished in its intensity. Not since the race was stopped anyway. You see some of the hardy souls here, both up in the terraces and down on the track itself. They are avid racing fans. They are hanging around hoping against hope that they get to see a race. And of course, I think they probably understand how the drivers would feel, but they're also here to see what is one of the great events in motor racing.
I don't think any of those people, however, and there's yet another 10-minute board going out, and that's what the decision is. They will continue to do so. Frank Williams reads it in his yellow book, which is the rule book. Now, however many more of those have got to go out before they can pull the plug on the race officially. We would only probably have complete authority on that if we were to find out what the FISA stewards and officials have to say about that, and they perhaps are not going to be willing to speak to us.
Well, Barry Sheen's on that case right now, but we're just waiting to have some sort of response. But very difficult situation for them because they're playing the guessing game that we've talked about all day. They want to do the right thing by the fans and obviously the right thing by the drivers. Good luck, Nigel. But
a little late for that one, unfortunately.
Yes, it's a dismal scene, isn't it? You could see that storm coming in, Jackie. The wind, it really came up and then it just came down in bucket loads, and it looks as if it's around for a long time.
Well, it's very sad, really. At the end of the season, everybody's looking so much forward to this event. It's so sad that it has to end in this note, but it's not ended yet. Let's not go away from our television sets yet. Stranger things have happened.
We talk about the weather that you experience in your part of the country, and of course, here we are down in what is supposed to be the sunshine part of the world.
Oh, we never get any weather like this in Scotland.
Is that right? Well, I think Gerhard Berger would probably differ in his opinion on that, and he's talking with Barry Sheene.
Gerhard, how are you feeling? Did you bang yourself or anything in spin? Did you bang yourself or anything when you spin?
No, nothing. I had just a spin. I won't put in the gear again, but the gearbox had a problem, so I couldn't continue. I was quite happy not to continue.
And what are the conditions like? Absolutely.
It's nothing to discuss. It's just.
Do you think they should have stopped the race earlier?
I think they shouldn't start it, but I'm tired to speak about this because 2 years ago it was exactly the same, and it's just
ridiculous. And you're just happy that you haven't got a car anyway?
No, I'm just happy that I didn't question anybody on the straight where people was working, because it was really every time if you pass there, you say shit. If you're gonna have aquaplaning there, people are working just there. You're gonna kill them.
All right, thanks, Gerhard. Back to you, Jackie.
I think, Barry, that's the biggest issue there, and that's what I was referring to earlier to Alan Jones, how long it took to clear the debris from Brabham Strait and the number of people who were exposed to the very high speeds involved in that. Now, of course, during the race that we saw, we had, of course, Murray Walker speaking about it as usual, and Murray's now joined us in the commentary position. Murray, disappointing end?
This is our weather, Jackie. This is British weather. It's our revenge for the rugby.
Well, I've just explained that we don't have weather like this in Scotland.
Sorry, what was your question now?
What about it now? I mean, how do you see it?
Well, my first reaction, of course, is one of intense disappointment, because we had the Drivers' World Championship resolved in Japan. I was hoping to see the Constructors' Championship resolved under more exciting and competitive circumstances than we've seen today. Nigel Mansell's gone out of the race. If it does restart, and I would be amazed if it does, Ayrton Senna can't help but walk it, I think, because he'll have a clear track in front of him and he will be able to, not exactly coast round, but take things comparatively easily. And it's going to be a very, very sad ending to what could have been and would have been a truly great race, with so many people having come so far.
Murray, you've seen so much Grand Prix racing over the years, and you've seen a lot of conditions similar to this, I would imagine. Is this generally the decision that is made, what has happened here today, or do they stick with it a little longer or get out of it a bit earlier?
Well, actually, Ken, it's unusual to have a combination of weather conditions like today and accidents like today. You see, the recent Belgian Grand Prix was run in absolutely appalling conditions, but we didn't have multiple offs and cars lying in the middle of the circuit like there had been today. And incidentally, there have been some criticisms about how long it's taken to remove the debris. You have to remember that these marshals are human beings as well. They've got cars bearing down on them at 150 miles an hour. They know the drivers can't see very well. And you're only human if you wait until you can't hear anything coming towards you before you dash out and remove a wing from the middle of the circuit.
Absolutely, no criticism of their role. But down in the pits, Alan Jones has another update for us. Alan?
Yeah, Ken, I'm underneath race control, and the latest word down from race control is that if the weather doesn't clear up within 10 minutes, they're going to cancel it and award half points.
Well, there seems to be no decision to be made now, then.
Well, I don't think it's going to stop raining in 10 minutes, Alan, as you look, I'm sure, up to the skies. I don't think any of us would, however, criticise the marshals themselves, Murray, but I think the question here is, having taken as long as was being taken to clear the cars away, should not have the race been stopped earlier to allow marshals to get that debris cleared away in safety, because, as I think Gerhard Berger said before you came to our commentary spot here, his greatest fear that he would aquaplane and run into totally innocent bystanders, if you like, who had nothing to do with his incident or accident and kill them.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't want anybody for one moment to think I didn't sympathise with the drivers. You can't help sympathising with the drivers. And we look back to 1989, and I say that if Ayrton Senna can't avoid running into the back of a car, nobody can. As you well know, you're totally out of control if you get that film of water between your tyres and the tarmac, as a result of which there is literally no friction at all. It doesn't matter with whether you turn the wheel this way, that way, or no way, you're out of control and you're into the wall. No, I don't know what I would have done if I had been responsible for making the decision. I dare say I might have thought, well, it was all right in 1989, let's hope it'll be all right again. And with all the wisdom of hindsight, we can look back and say maybe the race shouldn't have been started, but who knows.
We certainly had a fairly irate Ayrton Senna going round on that final lap before he knew that the red flag had been shown, waving his hand very clearly.
Yes.
And of course, Patrese coming out of the car and running down with great venom.
Funnily enough, I remember that it was a very irate Ayrton Senna in his first Monaco Grand Prix in the Toleman in 1984, who was equally irate because the race had been stopped. He was catching Alain Prost. Jackie Ickx went out, you remember, and he hung out the flag and stopped the race. And Senna was furious because there's no doubt about the fact that if the race had gone on, he would have won it.
Well, Alan Jones has got more news for us from down in the pits here with an FIA official.
Thanks very much, Cameron. I'm here with John Large, who's in charge of CAMS, Confederation of Australian Motorsport. He's been talking to Roland Brissinada. John, what's the latest?
Well, Alan, we're 7 minutes and 30 seconds roughly into a red 10. A red 10 situation simply means that there's no decision until the end of that 10-minute period. I spoke with Roland about 30 seconds ago, and he said he's now going for another red 10 at the end of this 10-minute period. That means the decision is now deferred for roughly 12 minutes from the current time.
Did he give you any indication? Did he say, well, I mean, if the weather doesn't clear up by then, what might happen or whatever?
He gave an indication that the forecast wasn't very favourable. They're expecting another rainstorm in approximately 15 minutes or thereabouts. I asked him if he knew how long the rainstorm would last, because in my view that's the definitive issue. If the rainstorm is a short 3-minute rainstorm and it clears everything, then of course we should continue. If on the other hand it's a 1.5-hour rainstorm and he gets a forecast to that effect, I feel reasonably certain that he'll call the race off once he gets that information. Obviously the reason for going for the further 10-minute red, the further 10-minute delay on the decision, is to see whether the forecast actualises.
All right, John, well, thank you very much. Back to you, Ken.
Thank you, Alan. Well, weather forecasters can't always pick what's going to be the rain, so they're in no man's land there.
Ken, this is the second time in 3 years that this has happened. We're at the turn of the season here. Is the Australian Grand Prix held too early?
Well,
for your summer?
Well, normally at this time of the year in Adelaide, you know, the cricket season's underway. It's one of the best times of the year. The weather is usually pretty dry. I mean, they get an amount of rain, of course, but I mean, I think we've been dead unlucky in the last, as you say, 2 times in 3 years.
We came here first in 1985, and I wasn't at all surprised that the weather was so good, because I knew it was always like that in Australia. The next year it was terrible.
Yeah, well, what can I say? Do you want me to apologise? We still want the Grand Prix, believe you me. We'll be back with more after the break.
Temos 40 minutos de paralisação. Corre todo mundo para ver o que é. Corre todo mundo para ver o que é. O homem da placa está fazendo sucesso.
E de qualquer forma, como a gente já informou, a McLaren é realmente campeã do mundo de novo entre os construtores. E olha que marca incrível. 7 títulos ganhos nos últimos 8 anos. Desde 84, quando ganhou Niki Lauda, 85 e 86 ganhou o Prost, 88 ganhou o Senna, 89 ganhou o Prost, 90 e 91 ganhou o Senna. Quer dizer, 84, 85, 86, 88, 89, 90, 91. Essa série só foi interrompida em 87, quando ganhou o Piquet, e a Williams realmente dominou a temporada toda.
Agora ele botou ali uma placa verde de 10 minutos. Preparou uma placa verde. A TV australiana volta com as câmeras posicionadas no segundo grid. Você vê. O carro do Piquet foi puxado um pouquinho para trás. Para a posição, para a quarta posição. Estava ali na frente, quer dizer, eu estava realmente achando estranho aquela posição. Ele foi puxado um pouquinho para trás ali, que é a quarta posição. Voltando a ficar vazias as posições de Mansell e de Berger. Segunda posição de Mansell, que seria ao lado do carro de Senna, e a terceira posição de Berger, que seria atrás do carro de Senna. Então está ali o Senna na primeira fila, não teria ninguém a seu lado. A segunda fila não teria ninguém por fora e o carro de Piquet. E a terceira fila tem por fora o carro de Patrese e por dentro o carro de Gianni Morbidelli, que está na sexta posição. Você já passou, Rubinho Barrichello, por alguma coisa parecida com essa nessa sua carreira? Vamos ver mais nesses 2 anos, né? Porque você saiu do kart, correu a Fórmula Ford aqui no Brasil e foi para ser campeão da Fórmula Opel e campeão da Fórmula 3. Passou alguma vez por alguma experiência dessa?
Olha, Galvão, por incrível que pareça, nesses 2 anos de Europa, eu fiz 2 corridas na chuva. Foram uma em Spa o ano passado e uma na Inglaterra esse ano, na corrida de Silverstone. Então realmente eu não passei por essa situação. Passei pela situação de batida na primeira volta e ter que voltar tudo ao zero, né? Que não é o caso dessa prova. Voltar tudo ao zero e começar toda a batalha de novo. Mas por incrível que pareça, nesses 2 anos de Europa eu não passei por essa situação.
Mas deve ser complicado para o piloto ali, né? Ele já passou todo esse sufoco nessas 16 voltas. Essa altura ele ficaria imaginando o que os homens da gravata lá em cima possam resolver para que ele possa ter que acelerar de novo debaixo de chuva nessas condições precárias.
Realmente é uma situação até constrangedora, né? Porque você esquentou, batalhou, como é o Senna, está na primeira posição e agora esfria tudo. Realmente não dá vontade mais de voltar pensando, porque está muito perigoso, né? O aquaplane está fazendo com que os carros fiquem fora do controle, então realmente está muito perigoso.
Pelo menos dá a impressão de que eles têm o bom senso, dá a impressão de que não vão dar nenhuma largada com a pista nessas condições, né? Porque senão já teriam respeitado aqueles 30 minutos regulamentares, que seriam a previsão normal. Os motores voltam a roncar e se houve algum ruído de motor, mas pelo menos dá a impressão que eles estão tendo o bom senso de não obrigar a largar sob essas condições.
A chuva continua forte, né? E se depender do que a gente viu de Senna e Patrese, eles não vão querer largar de novo.
O torcedor faz aí a festa, se defende como pode, se protege como pode. E persiste o impasse. A gente repete, né, Reginaldo, que o regulamento diz que nesse caso, interrompida a prova, tem meia hora para uma nova largada, não pode trocar de carro, o que impediria, apesar da classificação da 14ª volta do Berger e do Mansell, mas eles tiveram um acidente, então não pode trocar de carro. Quer dizer, tivesse saído da pista, voltar com o mesmo carro, tudo bem, mas como houve acidente, batida, choque, não teria como. Então o regulamento diz tudo isso e a largada deveria, a segunda largada ter acontecido, nós estamos aqui com o regulamento, a largada deveria ter acontecido com 30 minutos após a paralisação. Já passamos, já vamos para 45 minutos, porque realmente não há a menor condição.
Mas não sendo possível largar os 30 minutos, os adiamentos são de 10 em 10. E é exatamente o que está acontecendo. Quanto à troca de carros, fica bem claro que não pode ser feito, e não é só no caso de batida, não. No caso do Patrese ter saído, o Patrese nem chegou a bater. Ele saiu, o carro ficou ali parado, quer dizer, ele já estava fora da prova, não pode ser trazido o carro com um guincho e ser colocado no grid. Então está fora também. Só os carros que efetivamente completaram essa volta da interrupção é que podem largar. Completaram por seus próprios meios. E que estão ali todos no grid, inclusive a McLaren do Senna, embora ele tenha feito o gesto que a gente visivelmente deu para entender aqui, de que ele não toparia o negócio. A intenção dele era de não largar de novo, mas o carro dele está ali. Cabe à equipe colocar o carro dele ali enquanto se decide.
O que dá para entender ali é que o Senna, tanto o Senna quanto o Patrese, o Senna fez o sinal quando passou do lado do Morbidelli, é que nessas condições eles não iriam largar. Então o que a gente consegue depender é que a direção da prova acatou essa posição dos pilotos de não obrigar a uma nova largada nessas condições, que a informação que chega agora da direção da prova é essa: com essa chuva não tem largada. Eles esperam o tempo melhorar para providenciar uma nova largada. E tem também o problema que a corrida está sendo transmitida, como sempre, para muitos países. Tem o problema do satélite. E a informação é de que o pior problema é exatamente aquela reta onde o carro estava aquaplanando. Tem muita água na reta. Daí a postura da direção de prova de não efetuar uma nova largada enquanto a chuva continuar assim forte.
Você sabe que a elaboração dos regulamentos da Fórmula 1, quando nos itens que se referem à corrida com chuva, o objetivo principal ao se elaborar o regulamento não é muito mais a falta de visibilidade do que a própria aderência dos carros. Essa é a preocupação maior, porque eles consideram que a falta de aderência é igual para todos. E a visibilidade, por isso, tem que ser colocada obrigatoriamente aquela luz vermelha na traseira dos carros. Isso é uma coisa obrigatória. Então a visibilidade é que é o grande problema e que força uma interrupção, não tanto a aderência.
Só que essa foi a informação da direção da prova, que eles estão preocupados a essa altura. A visibilidade eles teriam que se preocupar mesmo, porque com essa água, quem joga água para trás, o de trás não vai ver nada mesmo. Não, eles estão, além de tudo, preocupados com o volume de água. Olha, aí volta a ver movimentação ali na torre, junto à pista. Volta a ver ali uma conversa. Aí todo mundo já corre em volta para esperar, para ver o que acontece. Mas a chuva, que num determinado momento deu a impressão de que tinha dado uma maneirada, você pode ver aí pela imagem que ela volta a despencar, volta a desabar em cima do autódromo.
É a preocupação. No caso específico, veja bem, eu falei da interpretação e da forma com que é encarada uma corrida com chuva em função do regulamento. Agora, a preocupação específica tem que ser mesmo com aquela reta, até pelos pedaços de carro que estão ali, que ficaram ali no momento em que a corrida se desenrolava depois das batidas. Tantas batidas exatamente na mesma reta em função da aquaplanagem.
Aí, continuamos. Olha, lá vem plaquinha. E tome 10 minutos. Vamos inteirar 50, tá certo.
Daqui a exatamente 32 segundos, vamos inteirar 50 minutos de interrupção.
Aí os boxes. Então vamos acordar um pouco. Foram alguns acidentes na prova, mas é uma corrida complicada. Esse circuito que você está vendo aí provocou através da história um espetáculo de rodadas, de acidentes, de batidas. Então vamos rever aquilo que nós mostramos antes do início da prova. Tudo o que aconteceu nesses 7 anos de Grande Prêmio da Austrália. Quer ver? Olha só. O que faltou foi exatamente esta bandeira quadriculada em preto e branco. No final teriam 81 voltas ou 2. Olha só. Olha só. Repare aí o que tem de água. Como é que vai fazer para andar nessa água toda? A chuva continua forte. Continua o problema. Persiste o impasse. E nós continuamos esperando. 5 para as 3. Nessa altura nós já deveríamos estar com 1h30 de prova. Chegando a 1h30 de prova. Teremos mais meia hora. Se fosse em pista seca, estaríamos aí a 20 minutos do final da prova para completarmos as 81 voltas. Os carros estão parados. Alguns pilotos permanecendo no carro, outros preferiram deixar os carros. Deu para sentir que as atitudes mais determinadas de protesto contra as condições da prova foram realmente de Ayrton Senna e de Ricardo Patrese. O Senna antes já fazia sinais pedindo a interrupção. Depois ele foi ali ao lado do Morbidelli fazendo sinais até para a equipe Ferrari de que não dava. O Patrese se irritou, deixou o carro correndo, foi à torre de controle. E tome água. E tome água. É sempre uma preocupação da organização da Fórmula 1. Tanto que esta mudança de data no Grande Prêmio do Brasil, eles se preocuparam muito com a realização nesses últimos 2 anos da prova em São Paulo, naquele período onde normalmente chove muito, e consideravam até um fator sorte, porque nós tivemos chuva forte nos treinos nestes 2 anos. Esse ano a corrida teve um pouco de chuva, mas no finalzinho terminou, desabou a água, mas a preocupação era exatamente também com esta fase, com esta época do ano em que chove muito. Então pode ser até que comece a se preocupar, porque em 3 anos é o 2º ano que a coisa fica muito complicada com a chuva na cidade de Adelaide. E nos outros anos também nós tivemos chuva, não no dia da prova, mas tivemos chuva também. Em 86, se não me falha a memória, o tempo também foi melhorar no domingo da prova. Chegamos a ter chuva antes, chuva mesmo no dia da prova em 89 e 91. Mas o tempo é complicado também essa época do ano, aí no sul da Austrália. Vamos daqui a pouco para 1 hora de interrupção. Daqui a pouco estaremos completando 1 hora de prova parada. Agora sim vamos nos aproximando às 3 horas da madrugada. Então vamos dar mais um tempinho. Daqui a pouquinho nós voltamos. Globo e você, tudo a ver. Globo, segura aí, estamos de volta. Tome chuva. Adelaide, a imagem aí parada. Eu falei tantas vezes aí de que a corrida é disputada desde 85, ganhou o Rosberg em 85, ganhou o Prost, depois o Berger, depois o Prost de novo, o Mutsen, o Piquet, o Ayrton Senna, que se não tiver largada é vencedor, ele jamais conseguiu vencer, dizia que ele estava querendo a vitória aí, porque fez 5 pole positions nesses 7 anos, mas jamais tinha conquistado uma vitória. Então vamos ver exatamente esta história aí de Grande Prêmio da Austrália, seus vencedores, como é que foi através do tempo, desde 85, quando a prova passou a ser disputada aí nas ruas de Adelaide e a chuva aumentou ainda mais. Mas vamos ver como é que é de 85 para cá.
Adelaide, na Austrália, é um dos 2 circuitos do mundo que não viram Ayrton Senna subir ao pódio. Ele nunca venceu lá. O outro GP inédito na carreira de Senna é o da França. Na história da Fórmula 1, o Grande Prêmio da Austrália foi disputado 6 vezes. A primeira delas em 85, com a vitória do finlandês Keke Rosberg. Prost levou o título daquele ano. No ano seguinte, 86, quem chegou na frente foi o francês que não corre hoje. Alain Prost venceu com a McLaren e levou o bi. Depois foi a vez de Gerhard Berger. Ele ganhou o GP da Austrália de 87 com a Ferrari. Mas o título daquele ano ficou com Nelson Piquet. Em 88 deu Alain Prost outra vez com a McLaren. Mas o campeonato já era do nosso Ayrton. Em 89 a vitória foi do belga Thierry Boutsen com a Williams. Mas o campeonato era outra vez de Alain Prost. E finalmente, ano passado, com o bi de Senna já garantido, deu Nelson Piquet com a Benetton. Agora a situação se repete. O tri está assegurado. Resta o desafio: quebrar mais um tabu e, enfim, subir no primeiro degrau do pódio na terra.
E tá aí a bandeira vermelha, hein? A bandeira vermelha agitada, eles ficaram esperando, a chuva voltou. O Brusserrad foi ali para cima para agitar essa bandeira vermelha, dando a impressão de que os carros vão sendo retirados, que não tem mais história. Ou seja, de que o Grande Prêmio da Austrália de 1991 passa para a história. Com essas 14 voltas válidas. Essa é a posição que se tem aí a essa altura, com o Brusserrad agitando a bandeira vermelha depois de 1 hora de interrupção e a chuva que continua muito forte. Eles aturaram até 1 hora a interrupção. Tivemos apenas 14 voltas. Repare que tudo vai sendo retirado ali do grid de largada. Não tem mais largada, não tem mais nada. Então, valendo metade dos pontos e valendo a 33ª vitória de Ayrton Senna, que sustentou a ponta ali, apesar do assédio, da pressão de Nigel Mansell. Senna o primeiro, Mansell o segundo, Berger o terceiro, Piquet o quarto, Patrese o quinto, Morbidelli o sexto, Mansell e Berger mesmo com os acidentes. A McLaren fazendo 5 pontos para Ayrton Senna. E depois a terceira posição de Berger, mais 2 pontos. O Ayrton Senna já...
Winning result for him today, but he is champion.
Well, we're missing the third place man up there. Nigel Mansell is second, of course, in the race. We've got the third place man, but Nigel, with his ankle injury, or whatever, his neck injury, hasn't been able to come to the podium. Of course, he had his accident immediately before the yellow flag, the red flag was shown.
Senna's got his shoulders like a man. Senna's got his shoulders like a man and says, I'm sorry that I've had to win it this way, but I'm sorry. That's the way it is.
This was actually one of the very few races he hadn't won, Ken, so he may not have won it the way he would have liked to have won it.
But in the record book...
But he's finished first, right.
Well, he's only got to get the French now, and he's got everything. So, a disappointing result, as we keep on saying. Ayrton Senna wanted to win this race in the manner in which he's accustomed. That is, as a great competitor, fighting it right down to the wire. Cheap victories do not sit well with this man. He is an outstanding talent. He is the dominant Formula One racer, has been for several years now. 60 pole positions, 3 world championships, and a legion of fans, and much admired and no doubt respected by all drivers, and will be put into the history books as one of the greatest. Alan Jones, you have the official decision, I believe.
Yes, Ken, I'm down here now on the start-finish line with Roland, and it must have been an agonising decision for him to have to do it. And as soon as he's finished his commitments with French television, I will ask him, Roland, that must have been a very difficult decision for you.
Yes, it was a very difficult. It was a difficult condition or decision to start the race. We have been lucky and not lucky in the race, the first 16 laps. We had an accident from Mansell. We didn't come out of the car, so we had to put an ambulance and doctors on. Therefore, I stopped the race. And then it started again to rain. And if you can start and going on in a race, a raining race, all the weather or the water is not so bad. But if you stop for 20 minutes, you have many plaques of water and aquaplaning. So I decided to stop the race.
Okay, so now that means half points?
That means half points, yes.
Okay, well, it's a great shame for all the spectators, but I'm sure safety must come first.
Yes, that's my opinion. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much. All right, Ken, back to you.
Alan Jones with the official word on the official results. Ayrton Senna getting a little bit wetter, but this time with the real good stuff, and it's champagne. Well, Murray Walker, disappointing end of the season for you. You see all the Grand Prix races. You get an early mark here in Adelaide. What are you going to do with yourself?
Well, I do a book every year, Ken, and that's my 1991 one. I've got to write the last chapter for it, which I'm going to be doing tomorrow, and then it's going to be in the shops until on November the 30th, and then I've got Macau, which is a Formula 3 Grand Prix out there, in effect.